The old Overlook Hotel loomed in front of me, its shabby facade and boarded-up windows casting an eerie shadow over the snow-covered landscape. Taking a deep breath, I pulled on my coat and trudged through the knee-deep snow toward the main entrance. As I approached the double doors, a shiver ran down my spine. Whether from the piercing cold or the overwhelming sense of dread, I couldn't tell. Just a few months ago, I had received the offer of a lifetime to work as the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel during the long, cold winter season. The position was a difficult one to land. Stories of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena repelled one caretaker after another. But desperate to escape the ordinariness of my life, I jumped at the opportunity, convincing myself that these stories were nothing more than urban legends. Now standing before the towering, dilapidated structure, I couldn't help but wonder if I had made a terrible mistake. There was an unsettling aura emanating from the Overlook, a palpable darkness that seemed to seep from its very foundation. Nevertheless, I gathered my wits and swung the doors open, entering the spacious lobby. The interior was as shabby as the exterior. Peeling wallpaper, dust-covered furniture, a thick layer of dirt on every surface. The air was stale and heavy, and the room was eerily silent, broken only by the occasional creak of floorboards beneath my feet. Shaking off my anxiety, I headed to the front desk and picked up the key to my living quarters. As I climbed the front stairs to the third floor, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It seemed as if all around me, as if the walls themselves were alive and aware of my presence. When I finally reached my room, I almost dropped the key from my trembling hands, eager to get away from the oppressive atmosphere of the hotel. Once inside, I took a moment to catch my breath, absent-mindedly running my fingers over the ornate furniture and heavy curtains. The room was spacious, a large bed, a desk, and an armchair in front of a crackling fireplace. It was undoubtedly luxurious, but something about it felt off, as if the room itself was imbued with a dark energy. I shook off the feeling and unpacked my meager belongings and set about organizing the room. As I set up my few personal belongings, I couldn't help but notice the faint splatter of dried blood on the table. My heart raced, and I quickly covered them with a stack of papers, pushing the disturbing discovery to the back of my mind. The first few days passed in relative peace, and I fell into a routine of doing hotel maintenance, shoveling snow, and exploring the huge winding corridors. The eerie atmosphere never dissipated, but I persevered, determined to prove I could handle the job. One morning, while making my rounds, I came across a locked door at the end of a dimly lit corridor. Curiosity got the better of me, and I searched my keychain until I found one that matched the ancient lock. With a heavy creak, the door swung open, revealing a narrow staircase leading into the bowels of the hotel. Against my better judgment, I made my way down the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the confined space. The further I went, the colder and stagnant the air became, until I found myself in a cavernous basement. Boxes and old furniture were haphazardly stacked, and the flickering light of a lone bulb cast long, menacing shadows across the room. As I cautiously made my way through the basement, my attention was caught by the slightly ajar double doors. Consumed with morbid curiosity, I approached and peered inside, which took my breath away. The room beyond the door was a veritable slaughterhouse. Bloody walls and a floor littered with the remains of past victims. Chains and rusty tools dangled from the ceiling, and a thick copper stench lingered in the air. I jerked back, horror and disgust overwhelming me, and stumbled up the stairs, my heart pounding frantically. For the next few days, I tried to come to terms with what I had discovered. I tried to convince myself that it was all a twisted dream, a figment of my overactive imagination. As I became more and more paranoid, I began to be haunted by strange occurrences. Doors slammed on their own, objects inexplicably moved. The Overlook seemed to come alive, its malevolent spirit tormenting me at every turn. One particularly hard night, lying in bed, I heard a faint child's laughter. I got up abruptly, my heart racing. I looked around the room, but there was nothing. But the laughter grew louder and louder, echoing through the hallways, and I realized I couldn't ignore it any longer. Gathering my courage, I walked out into the deserted corridors, following the disturbing sound. It led me to a secluded wing of the hotel, where I found a slightly ajar door. Looking in, I saw a boy of about 10 years old sitting in the middle of the room. He turned to face me, and a wide, unnatural grin appeared on his face. "Welcome, caretaker," he said, and there was malice in his voice. "We've been expecting you." Before I could react, the door slammed shut behind me, locking me inside. The boy let out an evil chuckle, and I felt a sharp chill as the temperature in the room plummeted. Panic gripped me, and I frantically searched for a way out, but it was no use. I was trapped. I realized the terrible truth. The Overlook Hotel was alive and had no intention of letting me out. I was its prisoner, doomed to wander its twisting, ever-changing halls, at the mercy of the malevolent forces within.